In 1965, while the scars of World War II were still visible in living rooms across America, CBS did something that sounded almost unthinkable. It turned a Nazi prisoner of war camp into a primetime comedy. Hogan's Heroes didn't tiptoe into controversy. It marched straight through barbed wire with a grin. The uniforms were real. The swastikas were real. The memories were still painfully real. And yet, week after week, millions of Americans, many of them veterans, tuned in to watch Allied prisoners outwit their captors with charm, strategy, and surgical sarcasm. This wasn't slapstick. It was rebellion disguised as laughter. The Nazis were never victorious, never intelligent, never in control. That was deliberate. That was the point. But how did a sitcom set in the shadow of history's darkest chapter not only survive but thrive? The answer lies behind the cameras, inside the casting, and within a moral line the creators refused to cross. Number 9. The Nazis were portrayed by men who had survived them. The most powerful truth behind Hogan's Heroes isn't about ratings or scripts. It's about who stood inside those German uniforms. Werner Klemperer fled Nazi Germany as a Jewish child. John Banner lost family in the Holocaust. Robert Clary survived. Klemperer accepted the role of Colonel Klink on one condition: the character could never succeed. He would be pompous, delusional, but never competent. That creative line shaped the entire tone of the series. The cause was personal trauma. The effect was cultural reclamation. The show didn't trivialize tyranny, it dismantled it weekly. When Klink failed, history was symbolically rewritten, and that decision gave the series a moral backbone few sitcoms ever possessed. Number 8. Bob Crane refused to sign on without veteran approval. Before filming began, Bob Crane hesitated. Turning a POW camp into comedy felt dangerous, even disrespectful, so he demanded something unheard of in network television: show it to former prisoners of war first. If they objected, he would walk away. Early footage was screened for veterans groups. The response stunned him. Many approved, explaining that humor had been a survival tool inside the camps. That approval shaped Crane's portrayal of Colonel Hogan not as a clown, but as a strategist. The series wasn't about captivity. It was about control reclaimed through intelligence. Cause and effect were clear. Without that veteran endorsement, the show likely dies in development. With it, Hogan becomes less a comic hero and more a symbol of resistance. That foundation explains why older audiences embraced the show rather than rejecting it. Number 7. The show almost wasn't about World War II. The original concept wasn't set in Germany at all. It was a modern American prison comedy, clever inmates outsmarting a clueless warden. Networks passed. Then a competing World War II comedy pilot surfaced, and producers pivoted fast. The prison became Stalag 13. The warden became a Nazi commandant. The inmates became Allied saboteurs. That shift changed everything. In a Nazi camp, rebellion feels heroic. The stakes elevated instantly. CBS took the gamble, and Hogan's Heroes premiered in 1965 into a nation still processing the war. The cause was creative desperation. The effect was narrative gravity. By anchoring the comedy inside real history, the series gained emotional weight that a contemporary prison setting never could have provided. Number 6. It was accused of stealing from Stalag 17. From its debut, Hogan's Heroes drew immediate comparisons to Stalag 17. The parallels were obvious: a German POW camp, sharp-witted Allied prisoners, and the constant tension of deception behind barbed wire. The creators of Stalag 17 believed CBS had rejected their proposed television adaptation only to develop something strikingly similar. A lawsuit followed, and at first, a jury agreed, ruling that the resemblance crossed the legal line. But the presiding federal judge overturned the verdict, drawing a crucial distinction: concept is not execution. Wilder's story was built on suspicion and betrayal. Hogan's Heroes operated as satirical inversion. One generated tension, the other dismantled fear. That ruling didn't just save the show, it clarified its identity. It wasn't about mistrust among prisoners. It was about exposing authoritarian power as incompetent and absurd. Number 5. The set was frozen in winter while actors melted. Visually, Stalag 13 existed in a perpetual winter snow layered across rooftops, frost implied in every exterior shot. The decision was strategic. By freezing the setting in one season, producers eliminated continuity complications that plagued other series. No changing foliage, no shifting weather patterns, just a consistent, controlled environment. But the illusion came at a cost. Filming took place under Southern California heat, where temperatures regularly climbed above 90 degrees. Actors wore heavy wool coats and military uniforms while standing on painted snow. Sweat replaced frost behind the scenes. The cause was aesthetic discipline. The effect was physical endurance. Ironically, that artificial winter reinforced the narrative tone. Oppression appeared rigid, sterile, and cold. Meanwhile, off-camera, performers endured real discomfort to sustain that illusion classic Hollywood craftsmanship, where realism on screen required sacrifice off it. Number 4. Germany rewrote the show and made it a hit. When the show aired in Germany decades later as Ein Käfig voller Helden, it initially failed to connect. The original English tone, translated directly, felt uneasy to German audiences still negotiating the memory of the Third Reich. Broadcasters responded boldly. They rewrote large portions of dialogue, exaggerating the incompetence of the Nazi officers even further. Authority became caricature. Threat dissolved into farce. What had been satire turned into full comedic disarmament. That reinterpretation changed everything. The revised version became a late-night success, embraced not as historical erasure but as cultural processing. By reducing former symbols of terror into exaggerated fools, the series provided emotional distance without denial. The cause was national discomfort. The effect was creative adaptation. The premise proved strong enough to survive translation and flexible enough to evolve across generations. Number 3. Ivan Dixon quietly broke barriers. Ivan Dixon brought quiet authority to Staff Sergeant Kinchlow, the camp's communications specialist and technical backbone. In the mid-1960s, nuanced black characters in primetime television were still rare. Kinch was not written as comic relief or stereotype. He intercepted transmissions, coordinated intelligence, and frequently anchored the success of each operation. His calm precision made him indispensable. Yet, as seasons progressed, his screen time diminished, reflecting broader limitations within the industry. Rather than accept stagnation, Dixon pivoted. He left acting to pursue directing and became one of the first black directors to work consistently in network television. The cause was creative confinement. The effect was professional breakthrough. His legacy extends beyond Stalag 13, marking a transition point where representation began shifting from token presence to structural influence. Number 2. Stalag 13 didn't fade away, it exploded. When production ended in 1971, the outdoor Stalag 13 set remained standing on the studio backlot, a relic of television history. Instead of dismantling it piece by piece, the studio chose expedience. The set was granted to the exploitation film Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, which required a dramatic destruction sequence. Explosives tore through guard towers. Flames consumed barracks. The fictional prison camp that had once staged weekly comedic rebellion vanished in smoke. The decision was financial demolition doubled as spectacle. The cause was budget efficiency. The effect was symbolic closure. There's an undeniable irony in that ending. A set built to mock authoritarian cruelty was ultimately destroyed by cinematic violence. Hollywood practicality erased the physical structure, but the imagery of prisoners outsmarting power endured long after the ashes settled. Number 1. It was canceled not for ratings but for demographics. In 1971, CBS launched the infamous Rural Purge, canceling several established hits to attract younger, urban viewers. The Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres fell alongside Hogan's Heroes. Ratings were respectable, but advertisers wanted youth. The cause was demographic recalibration. The effect was cancellation. The show didn't lose its audience. The network chose a different one, and that final irony captures the series' legacy. For 6 seasons, prisoners outsmarted authority through unity and intellect. Then corporate authority ended the game. Yet decades later, the show survives in reruns and memory. Its lesson endures. Strip cruelty of its mystique, expose arrogance as absurd, and intelligence becomes liberation. Comedy, when guided by moral clarity, doesn't diminish history, it reframes it. In the end, Hogan's Heroes wasn't just a daring sitcom, it was a cultural act of inversion. It proved that comedy, when anchored in moral clarity, can disarm fear without trivializing history. The show's creators understood something powerful. Ridicule can strip tyranny of its myth. By portraying authoritarian figures as incompetent and prisoners as intelligent, the series shifted the narrative from victimhood to agency. For many viewers, especially those who lived through World War II, that weekly laughter wasn't escapism, it was symbolic justice. Its legacy reminds us that storytelling shapes memory, tone matters, intent matters, and sometimes the boldest artistic risks leave the deepest imprint. If this deep dive reshaped how you see the show, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still remembers the opening march. Because the stories we grew up with deserve to be understood, not just remembered.